So in this part of the training, I'm going to lay down the foundation of some basic marketing psychology and key principles that you need to be aware of so that you have a good understanding of how it all ties in with attraction marketing. In general, there are three types of people out there on the internet. I call them the cynics, the skeptics, and the players. We can compare these three to a traffic signal. Cynics are like red lights. They're always in the stop mode. No matter what you tell them, they won't believe it. You might say it's a beautiful day, and they'll reply, the sky is falling. And if you've ever spent time with a cynic, you probably know it's best to quickly move on before they infect you. You don't want to waste your time with these kind of people because you can't help them. Their world is usually a miserable one, and they always have to be right. So don't waste your time or energy trying to change people's values or opinions or convince them of something. There are a lot more productive things you can do. And in this industry, it's not going to serve you very well to be a social worker or an evangelist. So you can do that on your own personal time if you want to, but if you want to be successful in generating a massive cash flow, you got to focus on revenue-producing activity. Okay, next is the yellow light, and it's comprised of the skeptics. Skeptics approach everything with caution. Their skepticism can come from two sources. It can come from without or from within. Let me explain. If their skepticism is from within, it might sound strange, but they're usually skeptical of themselves. They might have a low self-esteem or low self-image, and many of them don't believe that they can be successful, and a lot of them have already mentally quit before they've even gotten started. Now you might be thinking that skeptics aren't usually the best type of prospects, unless you're a therapist. And you're right, but if their skepticism is from without instead of within, then they may be skeptical of your opportunity, and that's usually a good thing, because these types of skeptics can sometimes turn out to be some of the best prospects you'll ever meet. Now just understand that it's very normal for most people to be somewhat skeptical about most things that can have a profound impact on their life. They only want the facts so they can make a decision. And the cool thing is that you can use some of these strategies I'll cover in this training to answer their questions before these questions even come up in their mind. And once they've researched all the information needed to make a decision, these kind of skeptics usually have no problem moving forward and joining you. So just keep in mind that there are good skeptics and there are some bad ones. Now last on the list are players. And players are green lights. They're usually competitive, they're strong-willed and self-motivated. They have high self-esteem, they have goals and aspirations, vision, and they take action quickly once they get enough information to make a decision. So the greens are probably the best types of people that you want to attract to you. WIIFM stands for What's in it for me, and it's also the one thing that your prospects are always wanting to know from you. They want to know how they're going to benefit from what you're offering. So whenever you're communicating with your prospects, whether it's in an email, a phone call, or a video, etc., you've got to make sure that you address the why should I care question that's going to come up in your prospect's mind. Now one of the things that I like to do when I'm trying to answer this question of why should I care, when I'm writing an ad or an email or working on web copy for one of my websites, is I always ask myself, so what? Hey, I've got the most powerful residual cash flow system in the entire universe. So what? Who cares? I mean, most of your prospects are never going to come right out and ask you point blank, who are you and why should I care? But in almost all the cases, that's what they're subconsciously or even sometimes consciously thinking. The fact is, you're probably going to lose a lot of enrollments if you aren't automatically answering this question when you communicate with your prospects. People join opportunities because they expect to gain something more valuable to them than the money that they fork over for it. They're expecting to gain a big benefit. That's why they care. The good news is you control whether or not they're the right prospects in the first place. You do that by targeting your advertising to reach only the prospects who are likely to have a strong need or desire for the benefits that you're providing. For example, you can identify with their pain of not having enough time or money. Maybe they just want to be able to stay at home with the kids and not have to slave away for someone else for the rest of their life. You've got to get inside your prospect's head. One exercise that you can do is to make a list of their biggest challenges. This will really help you in how you share information with them. Ask yourself, who's my ideal prospect? Are they young, middle-aged, or what I like to call well done? No offense to you seniors out there. Think about how you can be of service to them. What are their wants, needs, desires, likes, and dislikes? What do they worry about? Why did you join your opportunity? If you can figure out what they want and then give it to them, meaning provide them with a solution, then it's a done deal. It really is that simple. So you've got to get into your prospects' world, because if you're not talking to them, they're not going to listen to you. It's one thing to brand yourself, but you need to connect with them by talking to them instead of at them. You know, people want to know how they're going to benefit from you and your opportunity. And also keep in mind that your online communications to your prospects, like email, web copy, and video, should feel as if you're having a conversation with them. I'm going to cover this a little bit more as we go on here. It's a fact of life. People join opportunities through their emotions and then justify with facts. In other words, people join because of the why, like having more time freedom, less stress, etc., and then they justify their decisions to themselves, their spouse, their family and friends with the how, which is all the particulars about how they're going to do it. Everything that we do in life, we do for a reason. Actually, there are two primary reasons. We might not consciously be aware of these two reasons, but they're the single driving force behind all human behavior. In fact, they're controlling you right now and will continue to control you for the rest of your life. I'm talking about pain and pleasure. Pain and pleasure. Everything you and I do, we do either out of our need to avoid pain or our desire to gain pleasure. And even though there are lots of different levels of pain and pleasure, the fact remains that what drives our behavior is an instinctive reaction to pain and pleasure, not logic. So the key is to find a way to touch your prospects' emotional chords to get them to respond to your offer favorably. And I'll be giving you some strategies that you can use to do that in just a few minutes. Okay, the next thing I want to cover here is what I call the give to give principle. Now, let me make this point crystal clear because it's a big one. In order to have long-term success and not just be an overnight flash in the pan, you've got to first give before you can expect to receive, not the other way around. And over the years, I've met a lot of newbies and experienced marketers that only care about themselves and what they're going to get. But all the people that are truly successful understand this fundamental principle of giving to others without expectation. It's absolutely critical that you take the dollar sign off your prospect's forehead and start concentrating on serving them instead, which then lets the law of reciprocity kick in. So what I really want to emphasize here is that it's your intention and it's your attitude towards others and a willingness to help them without expecting anything in return that makes you attractive. And it's also your positive and upbeat personality, hopefully you have one, that people are attracted to as well. Because when you effectively communicate your sincere interest in helping them, your prospects will ultimately view you as an expert, which I'll cover in the next part of this training. But it's all about being a giver rather than a taker with no strings attached. That's really the concept and the principle I want to share with you here.